Hello their name is Jasom Jensai. Welcome to Star Wars Duels. In this episode, we will discuss Jedi Master Qui-gon Jinn versus Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. This will be specifically about Qui-gon Jinn just before the Phantom Menace and Kylo Ren just before the Rise of Skywalker. Side note, it's kind of cool how the names of those two movies could be switched and it would still make sense. If you have never seen an episode of Star Wars Duels or any of those Star Wars Versus series, this is how it is going to work. I will start by comparing the two characters' physical abilities and dueling skills. Then I will go over all their force powers, and after that I will analyze their dueling tactics and style. Finally, I will describe a potential one-on-one duel scenario as a cool way to declare the victor. The battlefield for that duel will be Maz's castle. And with all that out of the way, roll the intro. Qui-gon Jinn was a human born around 80 BBY. This means he is about 46 years old at the time of his death at the hands of Darth Maul. Despite his age, Qui-gon is very spry. Qui-gon and his apprentice Obi-Wan are able to effortlessly slash through Trade Federation battle droids, although they are chased off by destroyer droids. Qui-Gon is skilled enough to redirect blaster fire and contend with Maul for a bit. Where Qui-Gon seems to struggle is with his endurance and his stability. Throughout his fight with Maul, he is pushed back, just before Obi-Wan re-enters the fray. This is how Maul broke up the fight between them and took them on a one-on-one, even though it was a two-on-one battle. Despite these weaknesses, Qui-Gon is able to match Maul one-on-one, until he runs out of energy. Qui-Gon's other weakness is his stamina, which makes sense given his age. Despite lasting less than 45 seconds, his duel with Maul on Tatooine winded him, although I suppose it's pretty hot on Tatooine, so that kind of makes sense. During the Battle of Naboo, he and his apprentice fought Maul for a minute and 40 seconds, then they took a quick break. Maul and Qui-Gon went at it for another 30 seconds before Maul finally managed to stab Qui-Gon in the stomach. While it is certainly tiring to fight for about 2 minutes, take a break, and fight again, most people don't slow down for another minute or two, and that is without the Force. Kylo Ren is very strong. He is able to push back 2 Praetorian guards at once. He is able to beat Rey through his superior strength. There is a reason there are Ben Solo memes. Almost as impressive as his strength is his speed. He is able to jump extremely high, and his speed with a lightsaber makes the Knights of Ren look stupid. Because they are, but anyways. He is able to avoid attacks while unarmed from both Rey and one of the Knights of Ren. His foresight is so good that he is able to predict this particular strike a full 2 seconds before it comes, and the guy doesn't even have time to react. His excellent piloting skills are also a testament to his Jedi reflexes, even though they don't directly play into this one-on-one scenario. Kylo Ren's greatest ability, in my opinion, is his sheer durability. At the end of The Force Awakens, he gets shot with a bowcaster, slashed with a lightsaber, and he still survives. In The Rise of Skywalker, this happens. How in the world did he survive that? Later in the movie, this happens.
The last Skywalker.
How in the world did he survive that? In the first one, he would be violently thrown back and forth before his ship literally explodes. And in the second one, he falls into a bottomless pit filled with lightning and somehow climbs out of it. Eventually, Kylo dies, but it is not because of a physical wound. Instead, he dies through overuse of Force healing. The one thing Kylo lacks is skill. He lacks control, precision, and restraint. Take a look at his fight with Luke's Force projection. Is there a reason for him to wind up so much in-universe? No, not really. I get that wind-ups look much better, especially in animation, and I can imagine that wind-ups make choreography a whole lot easier, but every single fight Kylo is in, he brings his weapon way back behind his head. While I wish it wasn't canon, it is, so this mistake of Kylo's makes his attacks predictable and easy to take advantage of, which will be reflected in this video. Qui-Gon Jinn is faster and much more skilled, but Kylo Ren is stronger, tougher, and has endurance. Strength and toughness are vital, but when wielding a weapon like a lightsaber, both are much less useful. You do not need to strike hard to finish off most opponents, and for all of Kylo's toughness, lightsabers can defeat him with one blow. Strength and toughness are still useful, but speed and skill are far more useful. Qui-Gon Jinn gets a slight edge for his physical abilities. Qui-gon Jinn has a deep connection to the Force. He was the first of the Jedi to maintain his consciousness after death by becoming a Force ghost. While this does not directly apply to his dueling prowess, it demonstrates his knowledge and power. While Qui-Gon is certainly knowledgeable, he does not use the Force very often in combat. In my first video on Qui-Gon, I say that he has never used the Force mid-combat. Since then, I have realized that he does so, but only twice, both while escaping Theed Palace. He also probably used it a few times in comics or books, but I haven't read the comics and I haven't memorized every part of Master and Apprentice, sorry. His most powerful Force feat in combat is Force pushing 2 Trade Federation battle droids. By the way, his other feat is pushing 1. Although Obi-Wan only Force pushed once on the time Qui-Gon pushed twice, he Force pushed 3 at once. Now, I don't think that Qui-Gon is not capable of pushing any more than 2, but I do not think it is likely for him to resort to Force powers unless he's really desperate, and even if he does, it's not going to be a fight-ending Force push like something like Yoda would do. Kylo Ren is the grandson of the Chosen One. Both Luke Skywalker and Supreme Leader Snoke saw great potential in Kylo, but talent without training is nothing, so let's discuss Kylo's feats. Kylo has a wide variety of Force powers. In The Force Awakens, he demonstrates the Force power where you hold things in one spot. I'm going to call it Force Freeze for now, but if you can think of a better name, I'll use that. Anyway, Kylo has demonstrated the ability to Force Freeze on both blaster bolts and on Rey. He has demonstrated the ability to knock his opponents unconscious with a wave of his hand, and he has considerable skill with the Mind Probe and disguising his own thoughts. Although he never utilizes them, he recognizes and understands Force projections and Force bonds. But the power Kylo uses most frequently is basic telekinesis. In The Force Awakens, he Force pulls an officer to him, but the poor man's shoes tap against the ground because Kylo cannot lift him quite high enough. Later, in The Rise of Skywalker, he throws someone against the ceiling with the Force while choking them. The contrast between these two movements and the reference to Vader's tendencies to kill his officers is awesome, but Kylo is able to accomplish far more than just a Force choke. In The Last Jedi, Kylo and Rey have a Force tug-of-war over the Skywalker saber. It ends with the lightsaber literally breaking in half. Not only is that feat impressive in itself, but it also shows that Kylo is about equal to Rey in strength at that point. This means that just like Rey, Kylo should be able to lift up several tons of rocks if he needed to, which gives us another reference point to his power. However, by the time of Rise of Skywalker, Rey had surpassed him in strength. We see this when Chewie is captured and Rey starts to pull the ship down. If Kylo was still her equal, then her powers should balance out and the ship should fly off about as fast as it was before Rey started pulling. Instead, what we see is the ship slowly breaking free, and eventually, Rey shoots it with Force lightning. Kylo is strong. He has a wide variety of Force powers, but he does not use his powers much mid-combat. In his duel with Rey and Finn in The Force Awakens, he starts by throwing Rey against a tree with the Force, but as soon as he engages with his lightsaber, he doesn't use the Force for the rest of the fight. Against the Praetorian Guards, and against Luke's projection, Kylo does not use the Force. In The Rise of Skywalker, Kylo uses the Force to block a lightsaber strike from Rey. He uses the Force much more often when fighting foes without lightsaber, but that's not important because this is a lightsaber fight. While neither combatant uses the Force very often, Kylo uses it more often. Not only that, but Kylo's uses are far stronger, and he has a wider variety of combative powers. It is likely that Qui-Gon would not use the Force a single time during their duel. While Kylo might not either, there is a decent chance he would, and if he did, it would be a very powerful display. Kylo has the superior Force dueling skills. Qui-Gon Jinn is headstrong and reckless. He trusts his instincts and trusts in the Force. When he duels, Qui-Gon immerses himself in the Force, letting it guide his actions, as we see in the Master and Apprentice book. At the beginning of his apprenticeship, Obi-Wan would often be frustrated by his master's tendency to go his own way. Qui-Gon's improvisations made it difficult for the two Jedi to work together, because Obi-Wan couldn't immerse himself in the Force the same way Qui-Gon could. Because of Qui-Gon's style, he can adapt to situations quickly and keep a constant flow of attacks coming. Also aiding his skills is Qui-Gon's use of Form 4. While many Form 4 users use constant acrobatics to outflank and overwhelm their opponents, Qui-Gon's is more grounded. His relatively grounded style leads me to believe that he has some elements of Form 5 mixed in with his style, just like Kylo Ren. Kylo seems to have a similar style to a Form 5 practitioner. Although his stance is not very stable, he is constantly pressuring his opponents through heavy strikes, which is a staple of Form 5. Kylo also seems to have elements of Form 1 and maybe even some Form 4. Form 1 would account for his wide, sweeping attacks and his erratic strike patterns. This is exemplified in his duel with Luke's projection. He also seems to have a very fluid stance and has some talent at dodging blows, which is why I think he has some 4-4 influence on his fighting as well. Kylo is relentless. He keeps fighting to the end, never giving up or backing down. He goes at everything 110%, at least. This may seem like a universally good thing, but Kylo has brought it too far. He leaves himself open before and after striking while simultaneously telegraphing his strike, making it easy to predict his attacks and punish him for it. Kylo and Qui-Gon both have somewhat reckless and straightforward tactics, but while Kylo follows his passion, Qui-Gon follows the will of the Force. Qui-Gon has a slight tactical edge, but it is not very significant. The terrain for the duel will be the courtyard of Maz Kanata's castle. It is rocky, with lush green grass and dense forests surrounding the castle. Inside is a wide open room with many twisting corridors branching off. The terrain does not have a significant edge to either combatant, especially because their styles are so similar. Before I explain who I think would win, let me know who you think would win in the comments. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you like the video, and you know how it is. All the YouTube stuff, do that now. Now, on to the battle. A man in black robes and a mask entered the courtyard. He was strong with the Force. Qui-Gon sensed the dark side in him, raging like a storm. Somehow he knew the man's name, Kylo Ren. That's so I can refer to him as Kylo Ren. He opened his eyes and leapt to his feet, igniting his emerald lightsaber. Across from him, Kylo's lightsaber crackled to life. It had a crossguard and had sparks shooting off of it, making it seem unstable and dangerous. Kylo charged. Qui-Gon stepped forward and met Kylo's strike with a Form 5 parry. His blade was deflected to the side, leaving Qui-Gon open to a follow-up strike. Before Kylo could take advantage of him, though, Qui-Gon twisted his lightsaber around to a long point guard stance and stepped back. Kylo brought his blade back again and swung it at Qui-Gon. The sparking blade passed a few inches from Qui-Gon as he stepped back. As Kylo followed through on his strike, Qui-Gon leapt forward and began a series of Form 4 strikes. He pushed Kylo back on the defensive. They dueled like that for a bit, but suddenly, Kylo thrust out his hand and froze Qui-Gon's blade with the Force. Qui-Gon ripped his lightsaber free and deflected the attack that Kylo launched. He quickly brought his blade around his head and attacked Kylo's other side. He landed a quick kick to Kylo's stomach and once again began a series of powerful strikes. As he neared the wall, Kylo again tried to take the offensive. He charged forward, caught Qui-Gon in the blade lock and stepped his foot behind Qui-Gon before throwing him to the ground with a shoulder. Qui-Gon slammed to the grass and quickly rolled away from Kylo's crimson blade. As he leapt to his feet, Kylo unleashed a powerful Force push. Qui-Gon was flung backward and landed hard against the stone wall. Kylo smoothly jumped towards Qui-Gon, landing with an obvious slash. Qui-Gon jumped over the cut and landed on the other side of Kylo. Kylo quickly brought his blade around to strike at Qui-Gon again. The lightsabers slammed together. As Qui-Gon parried the strike, Qui-Gon's saber almost ripped itself out of his hands. Again, Kylo swung. Qui-Gon blocked. A third stroke sent Qui-Gon's lightsaber tumbling to the ground. Breathing heavily, Qui-Gon threw Kylo back with a Force push. Kylo slammed into the wall behind him, but appeared to be completely unfazed. Qui-Gon pulled his lightsaber, but just before slapping into Qui-Gon's waiting hand, it was yanked off course and landed in the black glove of Kylo Ren. Kylo's fiery lightsaber pierced Qui-Gon's chest. Qui-Gon gasped in surprise. He sank to his knees and collapsed, and thus Kylo Ren is the victor. Qui-Gon Jinn had more skill, but Kylo's strength, both physically and in the Force, were too much to handle. I think this would be a close fight every time, but I still think Kylo would win about 85% of the time. Thank you so much for listening to everything I had to say about Qui-Gon Jinn versus Kylo Ren. What do you think of the verdict? How often do you think Kylo Ren would win? And why? What feats or abilities did I underestimate or overestimate in your opinion? Please let me know all of that in the comment section, and with that, may the Force be with you.